thanks to everyone who has joined. We have a full panel here today, and the topic, as you know, is why self-serve analytics most of the time fails and how AI and metadata is here to really solve that problem. I'm joined by three fantastic panelists, Sarah, Jeremy, and Jonathan. Maybe we start with a round of introductions and then we can get into it because we have a lot of questions. We tried to do a shorter version of this at the DBT Coalesce conference, and there was just so much that after talking to everyone for 30 minutes and staying in the hallways, talking to participants, we thought there was room to dig really deeper into that. So I'll go first. I'm Solmaz. I was most recently head of data and VP at Shopify, overseeing data science, data platform, and machine learning products from 2013, so pre-Series C all the way to IPO. And 2022 really was great to see the maturity of the organization as we grew the data team to over 500 people, but also to see how data can become really an essential part of how you make decisions, how you grow your product, how you learn more about your users, and then you use data to create products with things like machine learning and data products. After that, I've been an operating advisor at Bessemer Venture Partners, and I'm an operating partner at ATGC. Again, my whole life has been helping people to leverage data and technology to solve real world problems. And on to you, Sarah.
Thanks. It's great to be here, and thanks for everyone that joined. I'm Sarah. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Euno, actually calling in from Tel Aviv in Israel today. So it's my evening time. And just some background about myself. I mean, before starting Euno, I was for over 20 years leading startups and teams with great focus on AI and data. And, in multidisciplinary fields, in cybersecurity, in healthcare, in fintech. And we always experience the same problems of complexity, of chaos, of clutter, of inconsistencies, misalignments, especially as you scale, especially as the organization becomes, the operation becomes large. And it's so hard to balance the need to provide independence and freedom and flexibility to the users, to the business, and at the same time maintain governance and alignment and consistency to ensure that we actually decide based on reliable data. But I think what happened recently with AI kind of takes all those problems that we're all familiar with and kind of put a huge urgency cloud on top of them.
For
Because
sure.
while we were able to ask people, and we're people, I mean, we know who knows, we know who to ask, we know what we can rely on. Agents are machines, and they will just pull anything that makes sense. So when I started Euno 2.5 years ago, we were bully on this, freedom versus governance challenge in the data space. And then with AI, this suddenly become, we need context. We need to understand what's going on. So Euno is really a metadata intelligence platform that's focused on automating the context for agents to understand, to navigate, to be able to discover reliably your data environment. And moving
That's
on.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jeremy, did you want to go next? Thank you, Sarah.
Which one did you say, Jeremy or JB? They sound suspiciously similar.
Jeremy, let's go with that, and then we go with JB.
How about you? Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Blaney, and I work at Salesforce / Tableau, where I lead a team of customer success managers that support our clients in the defense and national security space. I've been doing the data thing for a really long time now. I started my career, 15, 20 years ago as a data practitioner, first in the Air Force, then in industry at Bank of America. Eventually, I went on to Tableau before the Salesforce acquisition, helping to build a customer success practice globally. I pivoted a little bit, went down a startup path, and then came back to Tableau about 1.5 years ago because of all of the excitement around Tableau Next, our newest product, and agentic AI, which is really what that product brings to the table. I'd say just super briefly, my star assignment out of all of that was when I led this little thing called Tableau Blueprint. We'll probably get into some of this today.
Nice.
Deploying technology is not, a straightforward thing. You need to invest in more than just the tech itself. And that's really what Tableau Blueprint was designed to do, is help people figure out what exactly that means. So yeah, excited to be here.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy. Yes, and I'm also excited to learn more about Tableau Blueprint. I'm glad it's going to come up. Go ahead, JB.
Awesome. Yeah. And Jeremy, you could consider switching to JB as well. I see it. But hi, everyone. JB, I'm lead data and AI architecture at Astrodata, data consultancy, formerly director of data engineering at BetterHelp. And yeah, similarly, been in the sort of like self-service and the sort of data engineering and the promise around AI and self-service kind of through various waves of that over the years, and kind of seen the ups and downs and pitfalls as in designing architectures for teams and bringing it to individual organizations, and had the band-aids and the goods and the bads along the way. And yeah, on my side, as we're kind of designing architectures for teams and trying to bring in the capability to launch embedded AI, self-service AI, et cetera. Very passionate about this topic in particular, and seeing some patterns both in collection of metadata and also how we kind of leverage it, or how we put a brain or governance around it to unlock some of these things. So very excited about the topic. Happy to dive in.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's go in. Actually, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why do most self-serve analytics initiatives fail to meet expectations? And what are the biggest challenges that data teams and business teams face when they are trying to adopt a self-serve practice?
Maybe I'll kick things off and then we can see who else wants to chime in. So like I said, I led this practice called Tableau Blueprint. And while I led that practice, I had an opportunity to meet with a number of customers on this very topic. How do we embrace this idea of self-service analytics at scale? What I saw routinely is the thing that was holding people back was not the technology, but what's a lack of investment in things other than the technology. Routinely, people deployed Tableau and other business intelligence platforms and thought, great, we've made it available internally. Self-service analytics will just happen. And then there they go, rolling their chairs off to do other things. Technological transformation requires three things. Yes, technology. It's really hard to achieve any sort of transformation without technology, but also equal parts investment in people and process. And really, that's what Tableau Blueprint was designed to do, is help you figure out from a people and process perspective what more needed to be done to achieve the goal of unlocking self-service analytics at scale. So on the people front, skills. Well, in order to use the platform, you need to teach people how to use the platform. Well, use isn't enough. Sometimes people aren't quite sure what they should even use that platform for. So in sort of the people sense, you also need to bring people together so that way they can sort of vision set and share examples of what's working and what's not. And then a process perspective, I'm sure we'll dig into governance at some point. Self-service is a beautiful thing, but can also create a ton of chaos. And so from a process perspective, what sort of systems do you have in place? What sort of routines do you have in place that are designed to, only get trusted assets out there, data sets and dashboards, and also like pull that stuff back in the event that it's outdated and such. So, to just answer the question really succinctly, we saw that self-service analytics was failing, not because of the technology. Like implementing technology is easy-ish to do. It's from a lack of investment in people and process.
Interesting. Go ahead, Sarah. I was going to add something
on
too.
that. I think the short way to say it is that self-service analytics is great until it isn't. And it isn't, and the point that it actually gets adopted and more people analyze data, access data, everyone wants access to data, and then start creating things, and there is more business demand and more dashboards, reports, metrics, logics, tables, user created, and you end up much faster than you thought with a complete chaos that is clutter. No one knows if even things are even used, who's using them, whether there's and everyone's afraid to delete stuff, right? Because they don't know. And, inconsistencies and overlaps and duplicates, you spend more time disagreeing than making decisions, which was the whole point from the start, and costs that go complete out of control because which are, the result of clutter and inconsistencies, but also, you hire more and more people to try and make things straight and organize and curate and so on. So that's, and that's always where it goes. And then you usually will experience, and I've seen this in the past year, a huge shift towards, okay, let's centralize everything. Let's go back to a central team with governance, freedom, no self-serve. But who can do that to the business? Who can slow down a business? No business will let you slow down the business domains. And I think this is a constant tension that we see.
Oh, for sure. And I think that like tension is at the root of the issue. And it's a tension that's always going to be there, right? Because I think there was an era where as data leaders, we thought, okay, we'll build this like beautiful walled garden of data models and everything is well defined. And then we open the doors to that. But the challenge is that the business is always going to move faster and you're not going to have the time to have modeled everything and understood before it happens. So for me personally, many times when people say self-serve, I just have like this gut reaction of like, oh God, what's going to land on my plate later because of all the challenges that you mentioned, Sarah. JB, did you want to, I know you have like quite unique experience. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah. Just bolstering that last point, I think, yeah, I've been at organizations where, they're experimenting on 8 features a week, and those are coming in as new data coming into the data warehouse. And what data team is going to say like, sorry, we can't, highlight these new features or model this new data. We have to clean up the past and make sure our BI tool is perfect. So the ability to kind of promise self-service, I've seen it scale. Like it's hard to come to a business and say like this, in order to invest in this, we can only tightly scope our self-service to these small use cases and everything else is going to be the state. The business isn't going to buy for that. But in reality, oftentimes that huge scale is hard to maintain.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. So I think, but I also think like we need to find a way around this. So actually, maybe we go to the next question. So we've got the technology to centrally model the business logic, right? Like we were talking about that. That has become a sort of expected state from DBT, which was a big step forward to give us this sort of language around how you model business logic, and fast forward to all the layers of modern now old data stack built on top of it, up all the way to the semantic layers. And we have had all of this technology and quite a few parts of this stack have matured. So why hasn't this been enough to make self-service work at scale? Like we have the technology, but still it's not happening.
Yeah, so I think Jeremy touched it with people and process, but also, I mean, it's not just, it's also it's different roles. Like building models, even if you have the technology and you can generate, code and create PRs and run tests, this is basically an engineering practice, an engineering mindset, an engineering time frame. Analysts that were expected to kind of catch up and do that, yes, this is accepted with lots of excitement in the beginning. Oh, we're going to turn our analysts into engineers. But then, they have work to do. They're there to actually get business insights from the data, not engineer and build models. So at some point, no one's willing to wait for the report, and they spend time doing what they're really hired to do, analysis, and no one has the time to catch up and go back and build stuff. And in fact, 90% anyway is garbage. I mean, that's the process of analysis. You build something. No, it's not. You change it. You create something new. No, it's not the right calculation. You try something else. Eventually, you end up with something that works. You send the report. Suddenly, 2 weeks later, you realize this got traction. This is becoming the official report, but no one had the time to go back and model things. So we have the technology, but we cannot catch up.
Interesting. Go ahead, JP.
No, please.
Oh, was that
Go
Jeremy?
ahead.
Yeah.
We need code names. What do you want your code name to be, JB?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We'll get to that. Yes, next time. Real quick, I'll mention just on the DBT front, especially, teams typically face a crossroads. Do I go use case driven and test that really well and work very quickly? Or do I conform and build like robust dimensions and facts or denormalized outputs or data vault or whatever it might be? But in any of those flows, typically it can't keep up with the business. And even though you get really robust metadata, data quality checks and whatnot from DBT, and that software engineering practice like takes us a big step forward in terms of trust, the ability to interpret, the ability to build a robust layer on top of that gives consistent outputs, or manage the hundreds or thousands of dashboards that get built on top of it that might call something a different term or have a difference in results with something that looks the same, that isn't completed or solved by DBT on its own.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, I don't think just the fact that we have models enables that. But yeah, go ahead, Jeremy. I think you were.
Yeah, I might just add a little something to this. So I am not an analytics engineer, and I do exactly zero work in DBT. I am a user and consumer of data, and I primarily do that through the lens of Tableau. While very smart people in my organization centrally define metrics, upstream from time to time, I need to tweak those metrics in my analytics and business intelligence environment to suit the unique nature of my business. Reality is that is the experience of most people in most organizations.
Yes.
There's a few semantics over here, there's a few semantics over here, and probably 10 to 100 other places as well. Never can semantics be centrally defined. I am very excited about sort of the recent announcement around multiple organizations coming together and agreeing to participate in this thing called the Open Semantic Interchange, because it just accepts that reality for what it is, a reality, and finds mechanisms to create these single layers of truth instead of repositories of truth.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I never thought that having those beautiful models would remove that. But I think the fact that we had to sort of accept, and I think something that really made me interested in what Sarah is building and joining as an advisor, was that accepting that reality and building for it. That like, no matter how good and comprehensive your data models are, business is going to move at a different pace, and the two are going to diverge and then come back together. So if we can have tools or techniques that can automatically monitor these and bring them back when they are set and accepted metrics is to me one of the magical parts of what Euno is doing. So let's now talk about the AI in the mix, right? So all of this was happening and we were sort of finding our way slowly or fastly, depending on the organization and the industry. And then, the huge AI boom happened, and which has made many things in our day-to-day life. I can personally speak hundreds of times better, and has opened opportunities. But it has also impacted the whole data stack and how we build. And most recently, sort of with the floodgates of new agents popping up, and specifically for analytics, right? So now we have Cloud, ChatGPT, Snowflake Intelligence, Cortex Analyst, Databricks Genie. You can name it. I'm sure there's 10 more that I didn't name, and there were probably like 5 that showed up since we started this webinar. So every other week, it feels like a new company launches an AI agent to empower self-service. And I have my own thoughts and maybe skepticism around some of the initiatives, but I'm curious, like in your experience, is this actually going to work? Will this new generation of AI agents save us?
So I think, by the way, there are 2 questions here, and I'll try to address the first one. One is whether it's worth the effort. I mean, what is here to benefit, which I think is important. And I believe there's a lot to benefit, but you don't often see that the focus on AI is just because of what you have to benefit, but just because you want to tick the box on AI. But if you are focused on that, I think what I'm seeing, and I'm speaking with dozens of data leaderships and AI leadership teams every week. I spoke with 5 different just today. And everyone wants to connect. They use Claude for Gmail, they use Claude for Slack, they use Claude for Notion, they use Claude for the business applications, for customer success. And then they want to connect Claude to Snowflake to get some revenue information, to get something about the new active users, to run an analysis on sales projection. And the data team comes and say, no, you cannot connect Claude to Snowflake because it's going to be completely hallucinating. And now then you see, and I'm talking, I haven't seen a single successful deployment at scale of agentic analytics that way. What you do see a lot is small scale pilots where you curate 20, 30 tables, build some semantic views and some metrics, and run an agent on top. That's going to work. But scaling this to the 2,000 tables or 20,000 tables out there, and all the logic that was built in the past 10 years, 99% buried in workbooks, in Power BI and Tableau, that's difficult. And you quite often fall into this naive way of thinking of, okay, so let's refactor everything. Let's spend 2 years to curate metrics, to build a semantic layer, to migrate to a new technology, and hope that when we reach that point, everything will remain stable and we will have AI that works. But we just spoke in the
Right.
past 15
Which is not
minutes
going to
about
happen.
how nothing's ever stable. So I haven't seen any successful deployment. I'd love to speak about why. I think it's the data environment is highly complex. It's cluttered. It has all those inconsistencies, misalignment, siloed stuff, data that is not reliable. And to understand that, you need context. You cannot expect agent to that just guess. And this piece of context, that a lot of it is captured by metadata, some in the human brain, some in unstructured data buried somewhere. This context is becoming the critical enabler, the critical key to deploy AI at scale for your data.
Yeah, for sure. Jump in.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm a bit of an optimist. And so when people sort of talk to me about what it is you asked all of us, I tend to focus on, I guess, the positives and the opportunity ahead. I've been doing the data thing for a long time now. The thought of AI agents helping me do that work more efficiently, more effectively is really exciting and quite compelling. On the, data development side of things, I've built a dashboard or two in my day and a data model or two in my day, and inevitably in those build processes, I've had to do work that was slow, manual, grinding, or I've had
Yes.
to pivot to another system to answer a question that then would allow me to get over some roadblock that then I could, get over in order to like continue on with that work. Having an AI agent embedded into my workflow, helping me do things more efficiently, more effectively, like sounds wonderful. And on the business side of things, like as a consumer of data and insights, having something that is sort of monitoring all of my metrics at scale and telling me
Yeah.
when I need to log into an analytics and business intelligence environment in order to, see what's going on and click a button that
Or even
automates
better, when
some.
you have to actually use your attention, right? Because like that's
Exactly,
the rare
exactly.
commodity. Yeah, that's
So no,
amazing.
I mean, it's exciting. Like these are exciting things. The practical next step of like making those like possibilities real, like that is hard work. And
Yeah,
inevitably, like one of the biggest chunks of work in that effort is, getting what is in your brain into some sort of system. So that way AI agents have the context that they need in order to answer reliably.
yeah, for sure. JB, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, that brain into the system piece is the key for me. To speak a little bit, just at least satellite level today on sort of the technical side of it, if we compare and contrast self-service dreams or goals or promises of the past today, the self-service problems are still there as they were before. The challenges are still there around governance, around clarity, around velocity, et cetera. But what do we have now that we didn't have before? Incredible potential velocity, tooling that can take context and move incredibly quickly to solve that.
Yes.
So when I look at like and compare and contrast those states, that velocity and taking advantage of it, to me, it is that brain dump in a consistent and governance way, and well-governed way, I should say, into our technology. That is to say, if we want to go from like that one scoped small use case that like Sarah pointed out and get to a bit larger, I think what it requires is a strong framework and being considered like a first-class object for data teams of taking what a agent, an LLM, et cetera, would need to understand the full context of data end to end and putting it in your project. That if we're talking DBT, for example, that's the grain,
Yeah,
scope, the descriptions, the data tests, all consistent, CI checks and gates, making sure they go through in such a way where a tool like Euno or otherwise can consume all that, expose all that in a way where an agent has as close to consistent outputs necessary to make good probabilistic predictions.
for sure. I think sort of the part of the self-serve agents that give me a pause is that initially a lot of focus was just going from human to SQL, right? So, oh, I always have this question and the agent can write SQL. To me, actually, writing SQL is quite easy because it's very declarative, right? You declare this column to be this thing and it gives you an answer just by definition. Is it the right answer? Does it have the right context? Before even context was part of sort of like the whole prompt engineering and that process. I think that's where the challenges started showing up. Because even in my years of work, there were people that actually quite well understood the context of data and they didn't have the skills to write SQL. So I think for those people, that first level agents were really enablers and it was great. But I'm really happy to see sort of the later stages of these agents now are focusing on context because the other part is data work doesn't happen in the BI tool, right? Like people take the insights, take the results, and do something with it. And that something was never in the context of data teams, right? You might be in the meeting and hear about it. But now the chance that we can consume unstructured data and bring it back, like that is a huge unlock for us. But then how can we systematically bring it into the semantics? I think once we figure that out or make it better, it can get better, right? Like by bringing things to DBT or whatever environment and just also consuming the unstructured better. With all of this actually bringing even more things into the fold of data or exposing more for context of model, then we have to talk about how critical governance is for AI. And I think like most of us here agree, from building a reliable source of truth to prioritizing data quality, trust, the need is clear, and that need has never left the room. And if we haven't done it for BI, then we have to do it for AI. But in practice, these governance initiatives also often take lots of months and many committees and many years. Just like, why is this thing still so hard? And as we go to build this like next shape of teams and products, like what are the biggest blockers you are seeing when it comes to successful adoption of AI at scale with the governance lens? Sarah, you're on mute.
I can go real quick.
JB touched it before. Sorry, with mentioning the opportunity that AI brings. I mean, a lot of governance initiatives were heavily relying on manual processes. Think about data catalogs. The business will sit, with stewards and curate definitions and write a glossary, and this glossary will be the central source of truth for the organization to discover and access data and so on. These kind of initiatives always, are always lagging, and it's so hard to maintain them. So they start, the concept is right, but then when you rely on manual work, it's never working. I think 90% of the lineage in metadata systems seems to be automated, but in reality, it's highly manual. People are involved all the time, overriding things, fixing things, uploading things that were not crawled, that were not identified, that are not accurate. And if the lineage is manual, and if you cannot rely on an automated data flow, then how would the context be automated? So, and that's where technology introduces a huge opportunity, because you can turn a lot of these heavy manual initiatives into automated workflows. And these automated workflows, if you track usage and if you track, trust through, this is built on DBT, this is built on well-documented stuff, this is built on fresh things, this is not including any logic buried somewhere that is not considered legit. You're able to automate these classifications and these insights and surface them to agents. This really helps them understand what's reliable, what's trustworthy in this, huge, complex, cluttered ecosystem, and kind of isolate the gold from everything else, but not with the, traditional way of physically isolating it.
Having to manually doing it, yeah. And Sarah, like what sort of so this with this like focus on governance and what you're seeing around like metadata, do you see with the sort of new AI capabilities that's getting resolved because we have better access to metadata or not? And Jeremy, JB, feel free to chime in as well.
Yeah, I'll say just a very quick thing, and then I'll let my folks conclude as well. What we're seeing with Euno is that we're able to leverage, I call it the semantic layer that is already there in the ether. Things were built over the years and they're there, and part of it is trustworthy, and we can identify in the metadata the signals that help agents understand what is. And if you're able to leverage that from day one and then track what's being used, what's being queried, and automatically promote that to the constantly evolving semantic layer, you're able to introduce an evolving system that makes AI work from the start. And that's what we're seeing with Euno. Yes, context helps accelerate things, build trust because it's explainable, because you have the entire flow, the entire, analysis of how you got to this number.
Yes. Okay. And I think it's like sort of the last question we have right now. But JB and Jeremy, feel free to add your takes as well.
Yeah, I'll just conclude briefly here on my side too, and say, yeah, totally. I think, in the from my perspective as an architect, at Astrodata and beyond, like the desire is to bring in or to almost enrich that metadata for teams in a way that doesn't require a massive overhead to get it. So we're capturing a volume, consistent DBT project metadata capture, maturity assignment, helping like the brain or the agents or otherwise to recognize what is needed,
Yes.
what can be captured consistently is something that we want to try to bring in very quickly and reusable accelerator patterns to get to that future state. So, and other tools have what they need to kind of like surface that in an insightful way and in a way that's actionable.
That's awesome. Jeremy?
No, nothing to add. Agree with what was just said.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm personally looking forward to the time where people hear AI governance and they don't sort of roll their eyes or think that's a waste of time, and it's something that truly enables them to move fast. Thanks everyone for joining today. I know we can speak for hours longer, but maybe we catch up at a later date. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.